And I will, at 6:57, call the special meeting of council to order. I need an adoption of the agenda, please, by resolution.
Moved by Councillor Roth, seconded by Councillor Zelinski. Resolved that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Any questions? Call the question. All in favor? It is carried. First item on the agenda is the first reading of the 2018 financial plan. Who has that?
Sorry,
Oh,
just moving around here on the iPad. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Commodore. Be it resolved that bylaw number 4579, being a bylaw of the Town of the Pas to impose and levy property taxes of the Town of the Pas for the 2018 fiscal year, be read a first time.
any discussion? Call the question. Oh, Councillor Roth.
Can somebody fill me in on what's the process if we wanted to make any change or anything with regard to the budget, given the timing of things and
If
whatnot?
that happens, we give second and third reading on Monday evening. If council decides to make any changes to what's presented here, as long as it's not too significant in an increase, we don't have to hold a public hearing. If there's minor changes, we would give second reading and third reading as amended.
I guess what's significant?
If there's a significant increase, which would be 50 to 100,000 to the taxpayers.
Okay,
Yeah, then you hold a public hearing again.
so then you have to go through the formal process.
Correct.
What would the informal be if we were to change some of the suggestion of change to any?
You're as amended. You would just adopt it as amended.
As amended.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor? First reading. 6, all opposed? There we go. All right. Next item on the agenda, 3.2, the spray park.
Moved by Mayor Scott, seconded by myself, whereas in 2010, the Pas Families Building a Better Community was formed with the goal of creating an organization that focuses on providing spaces for family to enjoy. And whereas their goal was to raise enough money to build a spray park and raise enough money to match government grants. And whereas the Town of the Pas has allocated an area within the Centennial Park for the placement of a spray park. And whereas the Pas Families Building a Better Community has made a request to council whereby once the park was built, that the town would take over the spray park, including the yearly maintenance and operation of the facility. And whereas the group known as the Pas Families Building a Better Community commit to establishing a $25,000 reserve fund for the operating of the spray park, therefore be it resolved that council for the Town of the Pas agree to the operation and maintenance of the facility with the funds used to operate the spray park to come from the Community Enhancement Reserve Fund.
Any discussion? Councillor Roth.
Yes, I raised some issues at our previous meeting regarding this and investigating, trying to get some answers to them in terms of peak costs and whatnot. At this stage of the game, there's insufficient information as to what's going to be built and what it would require to answer those questions. So then, in thinking about it over the last number of days, it comes down to an issue of, do we want to reject or refuse what would be a substantial asset for our community once built and donated to the town because we can't and won't commit the dollars to operate it. I think at this stage of the game, if we vote against it, then it's gone. You won't see, we'll be one of those communities that doesn't have a spray park. And I think we have to allow this hardworking group to move forward with their plan and proposal, and so I would be voting in favor of the motion tonight.
Anybody else? Councillor Commodore.
Okay, Brian pretty well summed it up. I got little variables straightened out in my head, but we want, I always say, like, we want people to stay in the Pas. I've heard so many people go, well, I'm going to Flin Flon to their spray park. And also when they go to the Flin Flon, they spend, oh, well, I go here and I spend all my money in Walmart, and I go to Canadian Tire and I spend my money in Canadian Tire. Well, And I heard it again today. Well, if you have that spray park here, I don't have to go to Flin Flon. And, which, it was kind of ironic, because this person can't afford to go to Flin Flon in the first place, and I said, well, we have a beautiful Clearwater Lake that we can go to. But the bottom line is, I would like to see this spray park. The people that have worked so hard to get the money together, their hearts are in it, and they're not going to walk away from it. I totally believe that. If something arises, I'm sure that they will arise to that situation too. And I will be voting for it. It was, I know with the money shortage, but I know these people will be there. If there's any shortage, they will be the first ones there to step up to the plate, which I surely hope they do. And that's what I'm stating.
Councillor Cross.
I will also gladly be voting in favor of this resolution. Kudos to the group who has worked tirelessly and effortlessly and never gave up and just kept going full steam ahead. You've made significant progress over the past couple of years. You know, to me, it's just totally obvious that the community is 100% behind you, both the business and, you know, residential community, with all of the wonderful things that you've been able to do. I truly believe that the spray park will not be the financial demise of the Town of the Paw or the Town of the Paw's recreational department. I believe in the volunteers and the community groups who have stood behind it and will continue to stand behind it to make sure that it doesn't become a burden on the Town of the Paw. So again, I am gladly voting in favor of this resolution.
Anybody else? Chad?
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm going to be voting in favor of the resolution. I've been a big supporter of the spray park, or been wanting to see a spray park in our community for a long time. Yeah, it's a long time coming. So now's the time. Now's our opportunity to try and push it forward or move it forward. So I'll be voting in favor of the resolution.
That's Alan.
So there's 2 points that I made, as Elaine alluded to, on social media. One was around the Community Enhancement Fund. So this past February, January 18th, we got our 2016 audited statements, 2016. So thank Graham very much, because he's getting us caught up, and it's long, long overdue. But if you take the balance of the Community Enhancement Fund of that year, it's $77,978. We transferred out, based on the 2017 financial plan, $30,000 to operating and $82,800 to capital. And then if you look on the 2018 financial plan, page 2, there was $141,000 roughly of hotel tax money that came in. They get 50%. So that's $70,000 roughly added back in to a balance of $36,000, right? And this year, we have an opening balance of $36,053, based on my rough calculations. We don't have audited statements, that's where we are, right? The general transfer to operating in the 2018 financial plan on page 13 is $87,500. The income coming in is $75,000, which is on page 2. So that leaves us at $23,553. So the point I was trying to make is that we are taking more money out of this fund year after year. And as a council, we promise everything from the Community Enhancement Fund. This has nothing to do about the work the volunteers have done, because that's amazing. It's a matter of longevity, right? We're going to put this spray park, and it's going to be committed to that, and that's great, and maybe that's a good cause. But at the rate we're going, we've got about a year left. So that was a point I was trying to make. Okay? I think that's sound financial judgment, right, which is required from a councillor. I know it's not the story everyone wants to tell, but as council, over and over, we promise what we can't deliver on. So I hope that's clear to people, because we don't do a good job of that. Our financial reporting, again, Graham's doing an awesome job, has to get caught back up. We can't keep going on making decisions like this. It's not how you run an operation. So again, it's not a slight against the volunteers or the work this is done, or even at a decision based at that group. It's based on how we operate it as a community, and we need to do a better job as councillors, not as the groups coming, and provide that information so people know when they're coming, like where we're sitting financially. And just as a point, if you actually go off the $141,000, apply that to this year, there's $120,000 left in that fund. Right? So we're over-promising and under-delivering. Now, all that being said, the one thing this group has done that no one else has done is set up a contingency plan, and maybe that's the model for any group coming forward, right? We hear time and time again from staff that we like shiny things, and that's true, right? That's a fair assessment, because we seem to do that with the Community Enhancement Fund. So in this case, we need to go and tell people, hey, just can't hand it over because we can't afford to operate it. So if you're going to do that, you need to raise the money to at least get us over the hump till we get our sort of house in order. So as far as voting for it, I will be voting for it, only because this contingency plan is finally put in place, which was the second point I made last time. I think that's fair, and as a councillor, we have to have some financial responsibility. If anyone would like a copy of how I calculate this, I'll gladly provide it to them, as you as well.
So, looks like I'll be the lone vote of opposition, and I want the people, so Elaine stood up and spoke to us about priorities. Bob stood up and spoke to us about his evaluation of the financial plan and said, you know, looks okay. We see tremendous amounts of infrastructure replacement required in the future, and I see very little allocation to reserve funds for infrastructure in this financial plan and in financial plans previous. So we can see the runway in front of us, and we know it's going to be too short for the speed that we're coming in. And so with that in mind, I just can't, you know, to Elaine's point about priorities, when I ran for election in 2010, it was based on the idea that I had enough experience in infrastructure work and in projects that I could make sound and reasonable decisions with respect to infrastructure and enough overall experience in the pot to reflect or value other people's opinions about other components or portions that make up community, like social fabrics and like the arts community and things of that nature. And in 2014, when I ran, I echoed the same thing. I simply, my priority is to make sure that whatever decision I choose to support or not support, that my decision-making is based on not just what I think is appropriate, but what I think that the people voted for me think is appropriate. So I have no doubt that there are people likely in this room that didn't vote for me and that will not like my opinion about how I think this goes, and that's okay. That's what this is about. But for me and for the people that I speak to, and I've asked people, what do you think about this situation? What do you think about your taxes? What do you think about an extra $90 per 100,000 K of assessment? Our total expenditure increase was $1 million in this fiscal year compared to last fiscal year. Last year, our budget was $12 million in expenses. This year, it's $13 million. That's related to a myriad number of things, capital projects going on, capital projects not going on. But the end result is that we see increases after increases after increases to our property taxes. It's not sustainable. So it doesn't really matter. I look at it and I go, I get the Spray Park group is the hardest working group that I think I know. And I know a lot of user groups in the PA. I participate in them and they all work hard. The level of commitment there is incredible, and I love it. It speaks highly of the people involved. But for me, and for the people that have voted for me based on my rationale and reasoning, and for as much as Crystal points out, it's not going to be the financial demise of the PA if we choose to support the Spray Park, continuing to push aside the priority that we actually made to simply kind of go, you know what, it's okay, we need to do this. It's not responsible. I don't think it is something that we can then be accountable to come election time, because we can find example time after time where it's just a little bit more money. It's just a little bit more money. It's just a little bit more money. And I'm staring at my tax bill from 2010 when I ran versus 2018 where I am right now, and I'm going, how did that double? Is that really possible? I'm not in the most expensive part of town for taxes. And so based on that rationale, it doesn't matter if the Spray Park was going to cost us $10, in my opinion, $0 in my opinion, or $1,000. My opinion is that this will cost the taxpayers money. It will demand resources at some point in time, maybe not this year, maybe not with the reserve fund, maybe not in the next year, maybe not in 5 years, but it will exist. It will demand time of our workers. It will demand money at some point in time. And that's not sustainable decision-making. I don't think that's sound financial decision-making, and so I won't support this resolution. But I respect everybody else's opinion.
Okay, and I must say, throughout this entire process, I must show respect to you too. You've stuck to your guns from day one on this. I am enthusiastically looking to vote on this, and I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried 6-1. You have lots of work to do between now and Monday. And the meeting's adjourned.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah, motion to
I'd
adjourn.
like to copy that.